Hey, in this video, I'll show you my 5 favorite compressors that I tend to go back to again and again. I use them for different purposes, of course. Some of the compressors are workhorse compressors that I can use for almost everything, and some of them are more specialized. And at the very end of the video, I'll show you my favorite compressor, which is kind of specialized, but it's really nice looking, and I can't wait to show you that one. Stick around for that, and let's go. All the plugins that I mentioned in this video is linked in the description, so make sure you go grab them there. And if you're interested in mixing in general, grab my free mixing guide. The link is in the description. Now, the first compressor I want to show you is the FabFilter Pro C2. When I need a compressor, I always turn to this one first, because this will give me the cleanest possible result. When I want compression that doesn't sound compressed, I turn to this one, because this is the least sounding compressor of them all. I use it actually almost always on the clean setting. I can go quite far. On vocals, for example, I find myself compressing about 6 to 7 dB without even hearing that compression is going on. There's almost no artifacts when applying compression on this one. It's really easy to see what is happening with the metering. There's a waveform in the middle representing what is happening, what is going on. And there's that meter on the right side with the input volume and the output volume, which makes for real ease of adjusting and gain staging, making sure that the sound before and after is more or less the same. And it's really easy because they're placed right next to each other. Another thing I like about this, and that goes for all FabFilter plugins, it's the large controls, the large knobs. I really like those, and it makes it really fast to work with. Now let me show you some examples where I use the FabFilter Pro C2.
Stemmer de forteller meg alt mulig svada. Jeg blir koko, jeg er nødt til å være trulig skada. De forteller at jeg ikke er noe kul, så bra da. Satans hat er ikke super da. Stemmer de forteller meg alt mulig svada. Jeg blir koko, jeg er nødt til å være.
Next up, and this is a quite more colorful compressor, is the Novatron from Kush. What I love about this compressor is the wet-dry knob. I can dial in some really sweet distortion here, and I can go overboard with compression. And it's also here easy to dial back the volume or dial up the volume if that's needed when applying compression, because of this energy delta meter on the left. Compressor activity on the right is also really easy to see how much compression is going on. It's not as detailed as in the Pro C2, and this is definitely a more colorful compressor, and it really fills out what the Pro C doesn't have. This one has. You have saturation going in and saturation going out. You have a link button, so you can unlink them and get some really interesting results when using on different source materials. You can go really crazy with this thing. And of course, afterwards, use the wet-dry knob and find your sweet spot. You also have some EQ settings. On the flat setting, nothing happens, but on the dark mode and the airy mode, the low end and the high end is being suppressed respectively. And then you have different vibes. You have a punish mode, you have a limit mode, and you have a mix mode, which all gives slightly different vibes to the compression. I can't find one example of this not being great on drum buses. Also on the mix bus and on the instrument bus. I seldom find myself using this one on individual instruments, but I don't know why not. Here are some examples with the Novatron. Let's go. Next up, and now we're moving into a more specialized territory. This is a dedicated bus compressor. It's called the SSL-G Bus Compressor 2. It's from SSL. It's an SSL native plugin. You have the standard features and a wet dry knob, which is really practical. This lives on my mix bus. It's one of the first plugins in my mix bus chain. It really helps control all the sounds and making them glue together more. I use it with a slow attack. 10, 20 or 30 is my go-to setting for attack. I tend to use 0.3 for release, or sometimes 0.6, maybe 0.4. The ratio is 1.5 or 2 in most cases. That's the way I use it, at least. Now let me show you some examples where I use the SSL G-Bus compressor too.
Stemmer de forteller meg alt mulig svada. Jeg blir koko, jeg er nødt til å være trulig skada. De forteller at jeg ikke er noe kul, så bra da. Satans hat er ikke super da. Stemmer de forteller meg alt mulig svada. Jeg blir koko, jeg er nødt til å være trulig skada. De forteller at jeg ikke er noe kul, så bra da. Satans hat er ikke super da.
And don't forget to download my free mixing guide for producers. The link is in the description, where I give you my 10-step workflow that I use every time when I mix, and 15 cheat codes to a better mix. Download it, link in the description. Next up, and now we are really in specialized territory. It's the Track Spacer 2 from Waves Factory. I use this for sidechain duties only, and the most valuable use for this compressor, in my workflow at least, is to smack it on a beat if I have only a stereo beat and not the stems. I will insert the lead vocal track here as the insert, and then whenever the lead vocal is active, the beat is being suppressed a bit in that spectrum that hasn't been cut off. In this case, it will be from 1 to 5 kilohertz, which leaves more room for the vocal to live in without the beat suffering too much, because I always tend to have the ratio set down to about maybe 3 or 4 or 5%, not more than that. It will only be compressed slightly. And you also have functions for paneration, and when set to mid-side mode, I would let the track spacer only compress in the middle so that the sides are left alone, because the lead vocal always lives in the middle. I use the same technique on bass and kick, so I will put this on a bass track so that the kick will push aside the bass a bit when it hits. And then you have the attack and release settings, which is really practical. How fast should the track spacer react, how slow, and so on. Now let me show you a couple of examples where I use the track spacer.
Tror jeg ganske enkelt sier ha det. Leter etter hjelpemidler, ingenting på badet. Fomler litt der ute nå, en joggesko med pute på. Du kan ikke se det utenpå, men det er ikke helt. Tror jeg ganske enkelt sier ha det. Leter etter hjelpemidler, ingenting på badet.
And next up, speaking of sidechaining, this compressor right here is a stock Logic compressor, and it looks like this. Now this comes free with Logic, and it has improved immensely over the years. This compressor was kind of bland and boring, but now it has become a powerhouse. Even though I'm spoiled for choice because I have all these UAD options, and I have Kush audio, and I have the Slate bundle, and you know, so I'm spoiled for choice. So, but if I hadn't had anything else than Logic, I think with the skills and the knowledge I have now, I would have done perfectly fine using only Logic stock compressor. I use this plugin mainly as a sidechain compressor when I want to sidechain compress something and I want to do it fast, because this is fast. I just load it up, select the source, and I'll start compressing. It's just a matter of speed, actually. That's why I use this. But it has all these wonderful settings. It has the Studio VCA, it has the Studio FET, it has the Classic VCA, the Vintage VCA, the Vintage FET, and the Vintage Opto. And they all have their hardware counterparts, as you could see on those pictures that I showed you right now.
jeg ganske enkelt sier ha det. Leter etter hjelpemidler, ingenting på badet. Fomler litt der ute nå, en joggesko med pute på.
If you like this video so far, hit the like button and consider subscribing if you want more videos like these. And the final thing that I wanted to show you was the Shadow Hills Mastering Bus Compressor. I don't use this that often, but when I do, I have a really good time. It really satisfies my need for something big. Even though the graphics on this one are big, so is the sound. It's actually 2 compressors in one. You don't need to use everything. You can turn stuff off. So as you can see on the top here is an opto compressor, which is quite slow working and giving that sweet opto vibe. And on the bottom, you got this other compressor that is faster working and has more controls. So you can use both in tandem to get more subtle results. And there's settings for iron, steel, and nickel, which gives a slight different vibe on those different settings. And if you like these top 5 videos that I have, check out this video where I go through my top 5 EQs. I hope you enjoyed this video so much that you have pressed the like button, and I hope you've enjoyed it so much that you want to see more of it, so you might have subscribed even, and I hope I see you in the next video. Peace!